If you're looking to gain a healthier relationship with food, ditch diets, and stop restricting and depriving yourself of the foods that you love, then I think you're gonna love today's topic, intuitive eating. As a dietitian nutritionist, I healed my own relationship with food through ditching diets and rediscovering my love for food through intuitive eating. So it's a topic that I'm super passionate about sharing. And I also discovered that, hey, I don't actually have a video going into depth on what exactly intuitive eating is. So that's exactly what we're gonna talk about in today's video, breaking down the 10 principles of intuitive eating. Now, because there are 10 principles, I do wanna kind of break it down into bite-sized pieces for you because I feel like we could go on and on about this topic. So today is gonna be what exactly intuitive eating is, and then principles 1 through 3. And then in future videos, I will break it down into 2 more videos, so 3 total. So I'll keep those in the description box below and we can chat more. So make sure after this video, if the next one is out, you check out that one too, so you can get the full picture of what intuitive eating is. So let's jump into today's topic. What is intuitive eating and principles 1 through 3? If this is the first time you've heard about intuitive eating is a set of gentle nutrition / self-care principles made by 2 dietitians that realized that when they were coaching their own clients, diets just weren't working long term. They wanted to find a better, more sustainable way to help clients reach their goals without depriving themselves of the foods that they love and with also just having a long-term healthy relationship with food. The principles revolve around honoring your body's hunger and fullness cues and also practicing self-care with food. It also involves things like ditching the diet mentality, reframing thoughts around food, and honoring your health and nutrition needs with gentle nutrition. So that's a little bit of a background around intuitive eating. If you're interested, I will leave in the description box below the OG intuitive eating book. It's a great book. You can get it on Audible, you can read it, highlight it, do whatever you need to, but I highly recommend reading the book because obviously that will go way more in depth than just a video. This is more like a Cliff Notes type of video, but hopefully this gives you an idea of how to get started and what exactly you're getting yourself into when we talk about intuitive eating. Principle number 1 of intuitive eating is rejecting the diet mentality. You've probably heard this word thrown around there and it might not mean a whole lot to you, but here's a little bit about what diet mentality means. Diets, or having the diet mentality, is essentially having rules around food, calorie counting food, macro counting, anything that is restrictive in nature that involves restricting calories or portions in order to shrink your body. This is not to say that weight loss is inherently a bad thing or that no one should ever aspire to lose any weight. But when it comes to weight loss being the only focus, I think we can easily lose sight of what actually matters when it comes to our health and nutrition. Yes, there have been some studies showing that weight is correlated with different disease states and things like that, but it's actually a lot of lifestyle choices that lead to disease and other things like that. So when we focus too much on weight being the only thing to change, then we leave out really important things like our mental health, how we view food, what is sustainable and what is long-term solutions to nutrition and having a healthy lifestyle. Because if we can't have something be sustainable, then there's really no point, right? If a diet is something that we can only hang on to and grab onto for months or even years and not a lifetime, then we're not doing ourselves and our health the best we can do. Also, the other downside to focusing on weight loss alone is that when we focus on weight loss, we're focusing on restricting calories and lowering calories, things like that. And inherently, we are not being intuitive when we are restricting. That kind of goes exactly against what intuitive eating is. So we can't be intuitive when we're forcing ourselves to eat a certain way. So that is why it is really hard to focus on weight loss and to eat intuitively. In fact, I would venture to say it's almost impossible to do both at the same time. Not to say that you can never ever lose weight with intuitive eating. You can lose weight, you can maintain your weight, and you can even gain weight on intuitive eating. The results kind of depend on what your baseline is and what your body actually needs and what your body finds natural. It's figuring out what works for you without trying to micromanage your body. Ditching diets is so vital because when we're deeply entrenched in that diet mentality that teaches us to restrict and deprive, we can't and won't respect our body's hunger and fullness cues. It teaches our body that it can't be trusted. It can't possibly know what we need. And just think of how silly that sounds. Our bodies were designed to know exactly what we need. So the more we ditch the diet mentality, the better off we'll be. And that's kind of the first step of intuitive eating, is putting this aside. Now, one of the best things that I've done for myself in ditching diet mentality is unfollowing unhelpful social media accounts. I can't tell you how much that has helped me in my own journey, because when I see a triggering account or an account that kind of encourages me to lean back on restriction and diets and stuff like that, or makes me question if my body is small enough, isn't helpful for my mental health whatsoever. It can get me back in that past eating disorder mindset. Now, I wouldn't go back to disordered eating, but I think any of you out there who have struggled with eating disorders know that it's always kind of a bit of a struggle to resist thinking the thoughts that pop up in your head. They call it like the ED voice. It's always kind of there, and you have to actively resist it, actively tell yourself that you deserve better. So you'll be better off if you don't surround yourself with toxic people or toxic social media accounts that trigger you. Principle number 2 is honor your hunger. This means listening to your body's innate hunger and fullness cues. As much as MyFitnessPal would not like to hear it, our bodies actually have a great innate voice or inner guide to help you select the foods that you need and also eat the amount of foods that is necessary for your body to function optimally. When we restrict, our bodies fight back with primal hunger, which can lead to a feast and famine cycle where you're either starving or binging on foods. Honoring our hunger without judgment is an essential piece of intuitive eating because it helps us relearn body trust. The more we fulfill our body's hunger, the more our bodies trust us to be fed, and the less likely we are to have primal hunger pop up in the future. Now, fulfilling hunger feels like a pretty straightforward principle, right? But I want to ensure that you don't just view this as a hunger fullness diet, because intuitive eating is not a diet. There are a lot of types of hunger that we can experience, including practical hunger. Let's say that you have a flight in a few hours, and right now you're not hungry, but you're in your kitchen and you know it's a convenient time to have a snack before you have hours of chaos ahead of you. You can have a snack. That is called practical hunger, and it's totally okay to fulfill that. It's important to note that intuitive eating is not about rigid rules or rigid structure. It's about listening to your body and honoring it and respecting when hunger comes up and when things like practical hunger come up. That's a little more nuanced. Principle number 3 is making peace with food. Food is not the enemy, but we're taught that it is. The struggle with food is that unlike a substance or substance abuse disorder, we have to have foods. We can't just ditch foods and never eat ever again. That wouldn't work. We can't get rid of foods in our life, so we have to make peace with it in order to have a healthy relationship with it. And speaking of addiction, what may feel like an addiction to sugar may actually be your body telling you something. It's telling you that maybe you need more carbs, because when we crave quick energy, or when you notice that you're craving carbohydrates, typically that means that your brain is not getting enough glucose from the foods that you eat or from your glycogen to function properly. And that means you need more carbs. It doesn't mean you're crazy, I promise. In this step of intuitive eating, we slowly learn how to reincorporate fear foods or habituate foods that we were once scared of incorporating back into our diet. When we have a specific food that we feel like is off limits, we have that Last Supper mentality every time we come across it. So say pizza is your food that you restrict often. When you come across pizza, chances are when you actually let yourself enjoy that pizza, you're gonna have a lot more of it than if you just naturally incorporated it semi-frequently into your diet without judgment. So habituating foods back into your diet can be really, really tough to do on your own. It's possible, but it's a lot harder to do. So if you need help with one-on-one nutrition coaching, I highly recommend checking out my online nutrition coaching application. I work with clients completely virtually, and habituation of foods is definitely a part of my nutrition protocol. So if you're struggling with that, highly recommend checking out my nutrition coaching program. To continue watching this series, I will leave principles 4 through 6 in the end card and in the description box below when it is posted. I'll also be dropping my 7-day intuitive eating and fitness challenge in the description box below if that's something that interests you. And make sure to ask any questions that you have about principles 1 through 3 in the comments section below. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.